Well, since we're at 12:01, I'm Mark Revis, Heritage Preservation Officer, Neighborhood Planner. I'll be introducing our regional plan snapshot, which will take about 15 minutes or so. And each presenter is going to identify themselves when I do the handoff. Melissa's handling the slides, so next slide, please, Melissa. So virtually every Monday, we will have one of our snapshots. We're making our way through those. Please, if you're interested, register for our snapshots. Again, 15-minute presentation and then a Q&A after that. This will be posted on our YouTube channel so that we'll keep building upon our regional planning efforts. You're welcome to add any comments. Again, this is a working type of effort and document when we're doing the regional plan. So the next snapshot is March 6th, climate change and energy 101 mitigation. Next slide, please. Just so you know, our regional planning area where the majority of people in Coconino County live, again, north, Sunset Crater, out toward Belmont, south, and then to the east. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about open space, parks, designated areas, this map, again, if you were able to zoom in on it, which we'll be able to do when we're talking about planning, parks, designated open areas, open space, 7,873 acres. About equal to that amount is our national monuments that are taken care of by the National Park Service. Sunset Crater, naturalized area, also has a designation for the Apollo training area up there in the sands. And Walnut Canyon, again, indigenous people, rock structures, stairs that were built by the CCC. And then the majority of the acreage is national forest. And then the wide areas, privately owned, developed, those are the areas. So when we're talking about this in bigger terms, you can kind of get a general idea of what is designated and what isn't. I'm going to pass it on to Rebecca. So next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Sayers. I am the City of Flagstaff Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Events Director, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to help set the stage for the topic that we are focusing on for this snapshot, and that is parks, recreation, and open space. The value of open space and parks is intrinsic, it's environmental, it's aesthetic, it's health, both mental and physical. And it provides recreation benefits to our region. And you can see just a few examples here of the beautiful areas that parks, recreation, and open space throughout this planning area present for us. Next slide, please. So what is a park? Why are they important? Well, it's a public place for people to gather, relax, enjoy themselves, maybe attend an event, create some sort of recreation, participate in recreation. They're also essential for the quality of life and physical and mental health of residents, as well as the economic health of a neighborhood, the community, and the region. Next slide, please. What is recreation and why is it important? It can be both passive, as you see an example of on the picture on the left, or it can be active and organized, which these other two pictures represent. Recreation can be indoors or outdoors. We're focusing on the outdoor amenities that are in the region, and that can range from open space and trails to ball fields to sport courts, or even just organized races on public avenues or public spaces. Next slide, please. So just to talk briefly about the City of Flagstaff parks, we have a total of 24 parks. 18 are neighborhood or smaller parks. So those are ones that are in your neighborhood that are intended for you to be able to walk very easily to. Then we have a little bit larger community parks. Those tend to have a few more amenities. And then we have regional parks. A good example in Flagstaff is Thorpe Park, where we have play structures, ramadas, tennis courts, softball complex, maintenance facilities, etc. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robert Wallace, our open space specialist, to talk about open space and its value.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Wallace, and as Rebecca said, I work for the city of Flagstaff as the open space specialist. It's really good to be here with all of you. And I wanted to thank you all for being involved in our community, and I'm excited to share some background on open space. I'm going to share a little bit about what Flagstaff Open Space is, share our mission and purpose, and where we'd like to go with our future goals. So I'm just going to start with the definition. Open space is undeveloped or minimally developed lands characterized by natural scenic beauty or whose existing openness, natural condition, or present state of use, if retained, would maintain or enhance the conservation of natural or scenic resources, serve as buffer from development, or provide opportunities for recreation. The open space, legally designated open space is open space protected and preserved for the benefit of the community and managed by the city and county open space programs. And then you'll see a list of somewhat confusing terms. And I wanted to mention these because there's a lot of different terms that are utilized that have open space in the title, but are not preserved and protected open space for the benefit of the community. So those being dedicated open space, which is the minimum amount of open space area required during the development process, and provides outdoor yards, patios, decks, and balcony space. This type of open space is not usually open to the public. It's for private residential use. Common open space, that's the minimum amount of open space within a development area intended for or reserved for the use and enjoyment of all owners and occupants of that particular development area. And these are not generally open to the public either. And then, of course, a private open space, that's the minimum amount of a private open area required for each unit provided as an outdoor yard area. It does not include setbacks. Civic space is outdoor areas dedicated for civic activities. And then, of course, we have vacant lands, and those are zoned for various types of uses. Vacant lands also add some confusion to the open space program because they're frequently used by individuals for similar functions to open space, but they're not dedicated to that purpose and may be developed at any time by their owners. And then funny, sometimes street medians are also called open space, but really lend nothing to the open space programs. So next slide, please. The mission of the city's open space program is to protect and restore Flagstaff's natural, cultural, and scenic resources to enhance recreational and educational opportunities for residents and visitors. And here you can see a map of our 4 legally designated open space preserves. There on the far right is the Picture Canyon Preserve. That's just south of where the mall is located. In the center of the map is McMillan Mesa. That's 300 acres just south of Buffalo Park. In fact, that's called the Greater Buffalo Park area. And Observatory Mesa on the west side of town, 2,200 acres of really awesome open space. And then Schultz Creek, that little tiny 20-acre parcel there on the northern part of the map, which helps us provide some access to Forest Service property. So the preservation of open space consists of various tasks. We protect and try to properly manage the property, which includes protecting sensitive plants, protecting scenic qualities and undeveloped nature of open space, preserving the cultural, historical, and geological, archaeological integrity of open space, general vegetative management of the communities of plants, protection of wildlife habitat and maintaining natural food, cover, nesting sites, resting areas, and that sort of thing, making sure that habitat is effective. View shed preservation. I think McMillan Mesa is a great example of that. Providing recreational opportunities in the form of trails for walking and biking and other uses. Providing environmental education and stewardship opportunities. And then also providing equitable dispersed access throughout the community. Next slide. Open space and the park system would really like to accomplish a 10-minute walking access time from any place where you live in the city. An access analysis was actually completed a few years ago. And looking at this map, the green is the closer access time, 10 minutes or less from wherever you live. And then as you progress through the different colors, red is the furthest away, 20 minutes or further walking distance from those homes in that particular area. Case studies and leading research indicate livable and healthy communities really need open space and parks access within a 10 or 15 minute walk for residents. There are some locations within our community, you can see looking at this map, that do not have adequate access or connectivity to open space and parks. And we'd really like to improve that. We believe that providing a 10-minute walking time to open space and parks will really greatly benefit the community. They'll provide economic benefits, would support mental and physical health and well-being, would help maintain the character of our community as well through the preservation of open space and parks. And would provide better connectivity and support for the community's climate action plan, would help educate the community on environmental issues and stewardship, and would help protect significant natural and cultural resources. Next slide. So here's our long-term vision. Our vision, in addition to continuing to offer great services and preservation of existing preserves, is to move in a beneficial direction where we provide additional open space dispersed throughout the community and provide great connectivity between lands, regardless of the managing entity. So here you can see the city's open space preserves in green. You can see one of the city's parks, which is preserved as a walking and biking area, the Buffalo Park there. And then you can see county lands as well, such as Fort Tuthill. And this map shows connectivity between those preserves, in addition to potentially adding some additional open space in regions of Flagstaff that do not have open space in the immediate area. We believe that this 10-minute access time will really move the open space and parks in a beneficial direction. Next slide. And this is my final slide here. This is a shot that includes the foots trails along with those connectivity corridors. And we really want to move towards providing these connections for our community, for offering that 10-minute access, but also for reducing traffic and that sort of thing in our community as well. So this is a great goal for our community, and we look forward to being involved in this process. Thank you. Next slide.
And my name is Liz Krug. I'm the Assistant Director with Coconino County Parks and Recreation. And I'm just going to briefly describe Coconino County Parks, Trails, and Open Space. And our mission is that we engage the public in delivering quality parks, equitable community partnerships, diverse recreational opportunities, and distinctive natural areas and open spaces. And we do that through managing a little more than 3,500 acres in 6 county parks and 2 natural areas. And we also manage 41 miles of trails. Next slide, please. And so in a minute, I'll talk about what parks and natural areas are encompassed in the Flagstaff Regional Plan, but know that through the course of our department's history, we actively seek public engagement through planning documents, such as our most recent 2019 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, through the 2019 Joint Land Use Study, the 2015 Coconino County Comprehensive Regional Plan, and then a park-specific master plan back in 2013 out at Fort Tuthill County Park. Next slide, please. So earlier on in the presentation, you saw that slide with all of the green spots of parks and open spaces within the regional planning area. So these parks and natural areas that are listed here, like Fort Tuthill County Park, Raymond County Park, they are part of those designations. And so if you didn't know already, but Fort Tuthill County Park is actually managed by the county, but it's really the closest one there in Flagstaff. Raymond County Park, which is out at Kachina Village, just slightly south of Flagstaff, is also a heavily used park by the residents there. Sawmill County Park, which is over near the police station, that's right there in the city of Flagstaff, and Peaksview County Park, which is on the east side of town over in Doney Park. two natural areas that we manage as well. Rogers Lake County Natural Area, which is off of Woody Mountain Road. That's a rather large park that maintains some wetland, some ephemeral wetland, the viewscape of the peaks. You can see that in the bottommost picture. And then Pump House County Natural Area, which is right in the village, Kachina Village. Next slide, please. So I'll just also highlight trails that we manage in our park and recreation system, because we get a lot of use, especially after COVID, a lot of people accessing our trails for physical and mental health. So some of those trails are Soldiers Trail, Bridge Trail, Highlands. You can see the full list here, and they're encompassing different activity, and whether it's moderate activity levels, but you can see all the different ways that we're trying to engage the public and get them out on the trail. And we have a couple of planned trails coming up: Herrenberg Wash Trail, which is down in the Kachina Village, and O'Neill Springs Trail there too. And next slide, please. So the future direction, I wanted to highlight the trails because one thing that we really heard about from our 2020 master plan was that the citizens of Coconino County really are looking to find ways to expand trails and greenway connectivity in their own neighborhoods and across the county. So that's something that is on our radar screen. That's something we heard really from the people of Coconino County. Also coming from our master plan is the desire to acquire high value conservation lands in the county. And we started doing that back in 2002 with the Coconino Parks and Open Space bond measure, where that's where we're able to acquire, for example, Rogers Lake County Natural Area. And then also we're looking to modernize Fort Tuthill County Park. And we're also looking to expand service into the communities across the county, those underserved communities that may not have access to nearby parks or natural areas. Next slide, please. And so as we think about, well, what is the direction of parks, natural areas in the future? So this slide really is just indicating what are some trends in our industry. A couple of things are, again, that issue of connectivity. Robert pointed that out with the city of Flagstaff. I talked about that with broader Coconino County. Other things include stormwater infrastructure, climate change impacts as it concerns parks and open spaces, certainly technology, smart parks, and moderating heat islands. Some of the recreation trends that are on our industry is equity and inclusivity, teen and youth programming, and then also a decline in youth sport participation and the things like esports. Motorized recreation is also something that we hear a lot about, such as e-bikes, off-highway vehicles, and other motorized trends on trails. And then we're constantly looking at opportunities for ways that the city of Flagstaff and Coconino County can collaborate on parks and open space. And with that, I will wrap up and open it up for further dialogue and questions on this.
We welcome any question from the public or even staff for any clarifications. It's really important that we get input. So as we proceed.
This is William Wilson. I'm currently the chair of the Open Space Commission. And I just have a quick question. That last slide talked about opportunities to collaborate between the city and the county. What do you see as the potential for that collaboration and the opportunities that may be coming up that both the city and the county can work together on? Thank you.
Liz, do you want to take that one, or would you like me to?
Sure. I guess I can add a couple things in too. First is, there's definitely a lot of, I think, citizen interest in future parks and recreation amenities in the city of Flagstaff. And if there could ever be a way that the county could be a part of that conversation. And because the city of Flagstaff is within Coconino County, I think that's a way that, would be for future discussion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Thank you, Liz. And we are constantly talking about the trends that are coming before our commissions that I have to admit that one of the big trends that the director of Coconino County Parks and Rec and I have been talking about is pickleball. We know that there is a need and very few amenities for that sport. The city has some permanent courts and some temporary courts, but there's a lot of interest in something more permanent. So that's one example. But I see Robert has turned on his camera here too, and I know there's a lot of opportunities with trails and connectivity.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Our full-fledged open space system kind of vision that we have provides a lot of connectivities. And we'd like to provide that not only to the city's open space and the city foots system and parks, but over to the county's parks as well. So the map kind of clearly showed that connection coming down from Observatory Mesa down through the Fort Tuthill area. And that is one important connection that would provide connectivity over to the county.
Yeah, I guess I'll just piggyback on that. Rebecca and Robert, those are both good points. So we recently installed pickleball courts, painted the lines for pickleball courts rather, out at Raymond County Park, and see heavy usage by groups from Flagstaff coming out there. And then in terms of the Foots Trail, the soldiers, there's always been a main part of the Foots Trail into the park. Sinclair Wash is that segment, but just within the last 2 years, we've had a new segment been built. It's called Sheep Tunnel, and it goes from Fort Tuthill, goes underneath the freeway over to the Ponderosa Trails neighborhood.
I appreciate those answers, and I definitely encourage the continuation of the collaboration between the city and the county.
Mr. White, did you have a question?
Oh, thank you for asking. They're more detailed questions. Sorry about the phone, I can't turn it off. There was one open space that was mentioned up there at the Y that's outside the city limits. Does that open possibilities for the city to collaborate with the county on other open spaces that are outside the city limits, or is that just a special exception? That's one question, and then I'll ask another one maybe afterwards.
Mr. White, which space are you referring to? Do you?
That 20 acres off
Okay, yeah,
Mount Elgin Road.
The Schultz Creek Natural Area, that was actually annexed into the city limits when it was protected as open space. So that is within the city limits. So, I think if there was an open space, at least for city property, that it would have to probably be within the city limits. Rebecca and Liz, do you want to jump in on that question as well?
Sure, and that piece of property in particular is an interesting one because there's Forest Service and private property out there as well that might be better suited for trailhead experiences. But yeah, the city can only spend city taxpayer dollars on city property within city limits. So, but certainly those are the kinds of things. I know Robert has collaborated closely with the Forest Service on that space in particular. But as you can see from our Foots Trails construction and integrating the county parks as well as the city parks, I think we've already got a good relationship established, and we'll continue with those types of partnerships no matter what public agency it could be.
That's great. And the other question was a definition question. The difference between open space and passive parks, and particularly what caught my interest was the original Buffalo Park is not considered open space, but I think everybody considers it as open space. And that definition.
So I can start on that, Robert, and then turn it over to you. Just more from
Yeah.
the parks perspective, Buffalo Park has always been managed as a park within our park system. So it's managed by our parks maintenance team. That said, we understand that the community loves the openness and frankly lack of a lot of amenities at Buffalo Park, and we intend to continue managing it that way. But that said, in terms of zoning, it is managed, it is zoned as a public facility. It's zoned as a park, which means that we could add amenities such as the restrooms that we added a couple of years ago, and further development if through a community process, that's what was deemed best for that location. Open space has more limitations on that type of development. And for that, I'll turn it back to Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. And that's exactly right. You know, immediately in my mind, when I think of the difference between passive recreation and active recreation, I think of the difference of the amenities that parks provides, like ball fields and playgrounds and that sort of thing. And then passive recreation would be infrastructure for like walking, biking, sometimes equestrian use and things like that. And so that is where our missions kind of differ a little bit. You know, I was just looking up the zoning code definition, if you want me to try to share that with you. Let's see here. I think this is it here. So the use of land in its natural or restored natural state for the preservation of wildlife, the environment, and recreational purposes that requires minimal development, including park and ranger facilities, facilities for picnics, pavilions, multi-use trails, paths, canoeing, fishing, educational facilities that promote education and preservation of such lands, and related support accessory uses such as parking, restrooms, areas for the health and well-being of the public. And passive recreation does not include the use of recreational motorized vehicles except where authorized or by law or permit. So hopefully that provides a little bit of idea of what passive recreation is.
So that's the definition of passive recreation, and that's
In the city
helpful.
zoning code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm concerned over the years, I've seen everything from golf course to ball fields proposed for that, including a miniature Stonehenge on that property. And at least on the latter one, it took quite a bit of effort to dissuade going in that direction. And I'm just wondering from the point of view of a regional plan, and also from the point of view of what Robert has been doing with the other McMillan Mesa property, the greater Buffalo Park property, whether that's something that we should consider. Anyways, I'm not asking for answers. I'm just raising a point.
I understand the question, Mr. White, and the perhaps recommendation, or at least idea that you're placing on the table that perhaps we, the city of Flagstaff, manage, possibly even rezone Buffalo Park to a similar zoning designation as McMillan Mesa and manage it all the same. Is that?
Yes, that's my thought, but of course there may be pros and cons in that, so I don't understand them.
So we're just actually wrapping up the rezone process for McMillan Mesa Natural Area. It's an extensive public process with lots of opportunity for discussion. If there was a desire from the community for us to consider that, we could certainly start looking into that. But I would say we as the Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Events Division with the city of Flagstaff certainly understand the value of the passive nature and undeveloped nature of Buffalo Park, and we would not recommend any changes to that without an extensive public process as well.
Thank you.
Again, it's very important that everybody's participating and keeps participating in the regional planning effort. We usually stop recording unless somebody wants to be recorded, and then we stick around for a while if anybody's shy. We're available for questions as well.